Hi, my name's Henry Cook. This last season I worked with ANU on the Swift Parrot project in Tasmania. These little birds had a terrible season, with few chicks surviving. On seeing this, I and the rest of the team hatched a plan to raise some money and save these birds. What are we doing today?
So today we're going to be banding the first Swift Parrots of the 2014 season. It's assuming they've survived. This area we know has sugar gliders, so it's entirely possible that they've been eaten.
Feather down.
Swift Parrot.
This is Dr. Dejan Stojanovic, postdoctoral fellow at ANU. He's part of a team that has been researching swift parrots for the past 7 years. Part of his research involved monitoring of nest success using motion detecting cameras.
The nestlings are dead.
What from?
Well, camera trap will tell us in a second, but it'll probably be sugar gliders.
Sugar gliders were introduced to Tasmania sometime around the mid-19th century.
When swift parrots nest in an area where there is a low risk of glider predation, like Bruny or Maria Island, we get to see the nest succeed. From incubation
To hatching,
as they start to grow their feathers, and almost fledging.
unfortunately, the location of flowering blue gum and black gum dictates where the swift parrot breeds, so they can't nest on these islands every year. Which brings us to the crowdfunding. We want to do something about the nest failures. We know that sugar glider predation is directly linked to deforestation. We can't just switch off broad-scale logging in Tasmanian old-growth forest.
Nor can we manage the wildfires, which burn out hollows every season.
We want to use nest boxes as surrogate nest hollows or research tools for the swift parrot and two other critically endangered birds, the 40-spotted pardalote and the orange-bellied parrot. For 40-spotted pardalotes, we want to increase the number of nest sites in some severely hollow-limited locations.
For the orange-bellied parrot, we'd like to assess the risk of glider predation to known and historical breeding locations throughout Tasmania.
Finally, for swift parrots, we'd like to add nesting sites to some regularly used but hollow-free feeding locations in an attempt to establish new breeding sites. We'd also like to trial some designs we have for glider-proof nest boxes.
We have the manpower and the equipment to make this happen. All that is required are a lot of nest boxes.
14.5.
These are Australia's rarest birds, and they all share a common threat. With your help, we can make a difference, ensuring the continued survival of these magnificent species.
Não precisa nem ir, que a máquina puxa ele. Pra assustar o bichinho. Pera aí, não assusta não que eu vou filmar os dois.
Então vai rapidinho aqui, pô. O lagarto tá aqui.
Lagarto.
Cadê ele?
Não, rapaz, deixa ele, pô.
Eu vou dar uma cata na mão assim pra filmar.
Catar o que? O largato?
Perigoso é mono, rapaz. Mono é do tamanho da gente, pode. Você quer ver o tranco que esse macaco vai tomar? Ele morre, cara. Morre. E ele vai pular. Vamos levar esse filmar, cara. Quase encostou os dois. Ele vai morrer ali, cara. Tadinho do macaco. Olha só.
Hã?
O macaquinho tinha ficado aqui, ó. Morrer ali, cara.
Have you ever felt sad or lonely? Have you ever felt 2 feet tall? Have you ever thought, man, if only I was anybody else at all? They like to kick you when times get rough, and you give your all, but it's not enough, and sticks and stones might break your bones, but words can break your heart. But if you don't know where to go, I'll show you where to start. Kill yourself. It'll only take a minute, and you'll be happy that you did it. Just go over to your oven and shove your head in it. Kill yourself. Really, you should do it. There's really nothing to it. Just grab a mug and chug a cup of lighter fluid.
It worked! My time machine worked! I am a Stegosaurus.
No, Susie, don't walk in the road!
Look, Mom, I made it!
I am a Stegosaurus.
So we return again to the image processing sequence, and this time we're up to the image pre-processing step. And we're going to consider here both geometric and radiometric correction. So first of all, why do we need to perform image corrections, and what is actually involved in pre-processing? The most important thing here is that we need to provide a data set that can be used to extract spatial information. And in this case, we require digital image data that are, first of all, in an accessible file format and with the relevant and accurate metadata, that have been corrected for all geometric distortions and also registered to an accepted vertical and horizontal datum. We need to make sure that there's an appropriate map projection, so really considering whether we want to preserve areas, distances or shapes, and that there's also a spatial coordinate system. And these things allow us to integrate them with other spatial data sets in a GIS. We also need to ensure that the data are free from any systematic radiometric distortions, so any brightness variations throughout the images. And we'd often like to be able to convert the digital numbers retrieved by the satellite to physical units of electromagnetic radiation, such as radiance or reflectance. And we also need to be able to remove atmospheric attenuation, so we're ensuring that we're getting the true signal rather than the signal from the atmosphere. Once we've done all these, we can use them in an image processing system or GIS to produce spatial information products. And it's important to note that multi-date analysis can only be performed on geometrically and radiometrically corrected data. So let's have a look at a couple of pre-processing steps. If you look at these image examples on the right-hand side, this is from near Wellington in New Zealand. If you look at the upper image, for example, you should be able to see that you can tell that it's a hilly environment. And obviously here it's a standard false colour composite where the vegetation appears red. And in this case I'm actually looking at landslides. But the important thing here is that the data have been processed to remove the effects of the terrain. So our ability to actually tell that it's a hilly environment here is because we can see both sunlit and shaded slopes. But what this means for remote sensing is that if we were to create an image classification based on the upper image, we would classify the sunlit slopes differently to the shaded slopes because the vegetation actually appears different. It appears darker on the western face of those hills. Now if we look at the lower image, it actually appears that that elevation has been taken out. And it's not so good to understand contextually information about the image, but it's much better for obtaining spectral profiles, for example. So really with pre-processing, we need to correct distortions that have been introduced in some way during image acquisition. So these involve geometric corrections or related to spatial corrections, which really give us information about where the image has been acquired and will remove anything like roll pitch or yaw distortions from an airborne camera system, for example. Radiometric and atmospheric corrections, on the other hand, is really considering the conversion of digital numbers or the values obtained by the satellite to at-sensor radiance or reflectance units. This also involves correction of atmospheric attenuation, and this will give us a more pure signal without considering what the atmosphere is contributing then. It may also consider things like the interface correction. So if we're working with an air-sea interface, air-soil, etc. And other corrections that we might make include topographic corrections, like the images on the example on the right-hand side, and images to correct for sun glint to the water surface, for example. The output of pre-processing will give us non-distorted image data with coordinates, projection, and datum. So here's a couple of examples here, and again this is using the imagery from Heron Reef, and the top example we've seen a couple times now before. This is having a look at a form of geometric correction. So we've really removed the roll pitch and yaw to give us a a geometrically correct image, and this also has coordinates associated with it, so we could make measurements of distance and area, for example. Now the bottom example is an example of removing sun glint from the water's surface. So if you have a look in the left-hand image, you'll be able to see that there's quite a bit of glint at the surface of the water, and it's actually obscuring our ability to look into the water and see the coral. The image on the right-hand side, however, has that removed, and you can see the coral under the surface of the water a lot clearer. Part of pre-processing also may involve mosaicing a number of image strips or squares together. So again, this is the example of Heron Reef, and this is a number of image strips that were taken through the individual flight lines of the aircraft. You can see they don't line up perfectly, and there's also a bit of brightness variation between each of the image strips. So through the process of pre-processing, we've gotten rid of a lot of the distortions to come up with an image that actually looks like this, and it looks much better, and is much better also for extracting information about the individual features. I'm going to talk a little bit about orthorectification, and this is really where we get an image and combine it with a digital elevation model and ground control data from a GPS or satellite ephemeris data to give us information on exactly where the image was captured on the surface of the Earth, and to remove any geometric distortions there. So the example here is a spot scene from Wellington, and the raw data is shown on the left hand side. This is combined with satellite data about the location of the image, a digital elevation model of the location, and then processed through MV to give an ortho-rectified image. So this will be able to give us true coordinates for any location. So really what we want to be doing is to remove any systematic distortions and provide these corrections. So these are distortions that are able to be corrected from platform ephemeris data and pre-flight calibrations. Okay, so it's stuff that we know about based on what's happening with the platform at the time of image acquisition. And it might be to do with platform height, its attitude in terms of roll, pitch and yaw, and the velocity of the aircraft at that particular time. And this is all transmitted with the image data and provided in metadata files. So these distortions are corrected for by using set transformation equations, and these are relatively simple. So here's an example of some aerial image distortions, and bearing in mind that some of these distortions will be different from satellite based platforms as well, because of the stability of the platform as a satellite compared with an aircraft. So I've got listed a number of different types of distortions here for your reference, but I'm not really going to go into too much detail for each of those. Non-systematic distortions and corrections are parameters that vary non-systematically. Okay, so they may vary at different points in time. So this might be to do with variations in the platform stability, and could also be to do with variations in altitude, both of the sensor and the terrain. Now usually you purchase data and it's been processed to correct for these, otherwise you do it yourself. So it depends on how much money you want to spend on your data set. But many of these things we can correct for using ground control points or known locations on the Earth to actually attribute spatial information to non-spatial data sets. So here's some correction options. So for example, if I have an image that is unregistered, so it doesn't have coordinates attached to it, basically what I can do is use a topographic map sheet that has coordinates and get the software to tag similar locations. For example, I could pick a grid cell where I can also recognize a particular feature on the non-corrected satellite image and work out what coordinates based on the topographic map were associated with the unregistered image. So really what we're trying to be able to do is get down to fine detail to accurately locate a single pixel. And what we're trying to do is, when we go through this process, is to really keep an even spatial distribution over your entire image. We also want to select stable features as our control points. So a bend in the river, for example, is not particularly stable because it may change over time. And it's important to understand the number of ground control points that are required. And we'll go into this more in the advanced subject of remote sensing, but really you're looking at a minimum of 6 ground control points, but the more ground control points you have, the better.
8 English grammar mistakes that even advanced students make from EspressoEnglish.net. Sometimes your English could be 90% fine, but there are still some small errors. They don't affect communication, but of course we want to correct them. Today, I'll teach you 8 common English grammar mistakes with examples from real students of mine. Remember, if you want to get your mistakes corrected by me, check out my Advanced English Grammar course. Click on the link in the top right corner of this video or in the description for more information. Don't say, I wore a jeans. The correct way to say it is, I wore jeans, or I wore a pair of jeans. The nouns jeans, pants, shorts, scissors, and glasses are special. Although each word refers to one singular item, we can't use a with these words. Instead, you can use no article or a pair of. For example, she's wearing glasses. I bought a pair of shorts at the mall. There's a pair of scissors on my desk. If you want to refer to more than one item, use 2, 3, 4, etc. Pairs of pants, shorts, glasses, scissors, and so on. For example, I have 2 pairs of white pants. Let's look at the next mistake. Don't say, he loves team sports as soccer. The correct way is, he loves team sports such as soccer, or he loves team sports like soccer. When you want to give an example, use such as or like. Don't use only as to introduce an example. Such as is considered more formal than like. Mistake number 3. Don't say, I didn't save money enough. The correct sentence is, I didn't save enough money. The word enough comes before a noun, but after an adjective. For example, we have enough food. Food is a noun, so enough comes before it. It's the same with the word money. Money is also a noun, so we use enough before the noun. It's the opposite with adjectives. For example, you're not tall enough to go on the ride. Tall is an adjective, a word that describes a noun. So we use the word enough after the adjective. Tall enough. Mistake number 4. Don't say, I worked a lot in last month. And don't say, we'll meet on next Monday. The correct way to say it is, I worked a lot last month. We'll meet next Monday. We normally use in with months and on with days. However, when you use the words last and next, you don't need in or on. You can simply say last month and next Monday without an extra preposition. Here's the next one. Don't say, it was so long time ago. The correct ways to say it are, it was so long ago, or it was such a long time ago. Use so plus an adjective or an adverb, and use such plus an adjective plus a noun. Here are some examples of how to use the word so plus an adjective or an adverb. You can say, she's so friendly. Friendly is an adjective. This sandwich is so good. Good is another adjective. He works so hard. Hard is an adverb describing the verb works. However, if the adjective is followed by a noun, then we need to use such a instead of so. Here are some examples of such a plus an adjective plus a noun. You can say, she's such a friendly person. In this case, we have the noun person at the end, so we need to use such a instead of so. You can say, this is such a good sandwich, and he has such a demanding job. One exception is when the noun is plural. In this case, use only such, not a. For example, they are such friendly people. People is plural, so we use only such, not such a. These are such good cookies. Here's a common mistake with the word lend and give. Don't say, I lent to him some money. The correct ways to say it are, I lent him some money, or I lent some money to him. This rule applies to lend, give, and other verbs that have both a direct object and an indirect object. You can use one of two structures. You can have the verb plus the indirect object plus the direct object. That would be, I lent him some money. Or if you want to put the direct object first, then you would say verb, direct object, plus to, and then the indirect object. For example, I lent some money to him. Here's another example. You can say, he gave Rachel the keys, or he gave the keys to Rachel. Both are correct, but it does not sound natural to say, he gave to Rachel the keys. That's incorrect. Let's move on. Don't say, roller coasters make me to feel sick. The correct sentence is, roller coasters make me feel sick. Let, make, and have are causative verbs. They are followed by the indirect object and then the base form of the next verb, without to. Here are some more examples. Our boss doesn't let us leave work early. Don't say let us to leave. The correct structure is let us leave. My mom makes me clean my room. I'll have my assistant call you later today. In the case of the verb help, we can use to or not, but it's more common not to do so. So you can say, please help me carry these boxes, or please help me to carry these boxes. But it's more common to just say, please help me carry, without the word to. Okay, our last mistake. Don't say, you stopped me make a mistake. The correct way is, you stopped me from making a mistake. The words stop and prevent are followed by someone or something, and then the word from, and finally the verb in the ing form. Here are some more examples. The vaccine stops people from catching the disease. The waterproof covering prevents the equipment from getting wet. If you want to make sure that your written English is completely correct, then you would benefit from my Advanced English Grammar course. It has 45 lessons that cover many aspects of English grammar in depth, with plenty of examples. And it also includes writing tasks where you can send me your writing for correction and feedback. Click on the link in the video or in the description for more information and to sign up.
Schach, Zwerge, die sind klein und zart. Zwerge tragen einen Bart. Zwerge
auf eine Bombe rennen.
sind so dumm wie Stroh. Zwerge
Aloha.
gehen zu siebt aufs Klo. Zwerge sind zu gar nichts Nutz. Zwerge machen nichts als Schmutz. Zwerge sehen das anders, weil
Alter, die Bombe läuft nicht.
nur ein Vorurteil. Ein Zwerg ist größer als man glaubt. Ein Zwerg
Ich überfahre den jetzt einfach.
überhaupt. Ein Zwerg sieht das, was du nicht siehst. Ein Zwerg findet Schneewittchen süß. Schach, Wasser ist zum Waschen da. Pudding ist zum Naschen da. Türen sind zum Schließen da. Tore sind zum Schießen da. Ohren sind zum Hören da. Hirsche.
Pojdica. Oni išla, a sad mi
Alcine? Riesci a fare da poco?
minte să știți. E cu minte. Foc. Să ziceți și aia neagră. Neagră vin în coa. Neagră vin în coa. Arată. Speriat. Lasă-mă să filmezi. Da, hai. Să fii dusezi. Neagră vin în coa. S-a speriat. Hai du-te sus. Lasă-o, dă-te la o parte, să se ducă sus pe scări.
Bine, sănătate la Marine și mersi mult.
Nu, dar e apă, că nu vă bag în apă.
Hai dăm 10 lei. Oricum vreau să-mi dai. Hai din afară.
Hai să mutăm.
Ce nu faceva câinele ăla? Cu fața, uite! La câine trebuie să faci. Hai la fără să mă mult. Hai multe. Hai la fără. O mine. Hei, face că n-ai dat.
Lasă gura la scățeaua că te mănânc. Uite, o filmează.
Mr. McLover.
Listen carefully. Focus on each word. Don't space out. Read along with the story.
Gusto is my name, by Mr. McLover.
Hi there, bud. What's your name?
Gusto is my name. Having fun is my game. I am a speck of dust. What is your name?
My name is Dirty Mud. I am a tiny speck of mud. Hoo-wee!
Rock on, Dirty Mud. Do you want to hang out with me? You bet. Yee-haw! What do you want to do, Dusto? I don't know. Wait a second. Do you feel that, Dirty Mud? No, Dusto. I don't feel anything. Be very still. I can feel the wind picking up. You are right, Dusto. I can feel something now. Here comes the wind. Get ready. This is awesome! Whee!
Brown's yogurt is yum yum. Eee. Brown's yogurt comes in lots of yummy flavours. Brown's yogurt is good for growing bodies. My mum and dad grew up on eating Brown's yogurt. Brown's yogurt uses WA milk, which is good for our local farmers. Brown's yogurt helps me to bust a move on the dance floor, y'all. That Brown's yogurt really works.